This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, how there, ho there, it's Jeff Gunner Diamond. Welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, September the 28th in the year 2008, New York Mets fans were kind of sad as the New York Mets would play their final game at Shea Stadium before moving across a few feet to the new City Field, built right where you could see it at Shea Stadium, where the Mets were playing at the string of the Shea Stadium. So Shea Stadium was built in 1964 for practically the New York World's Fair, which was happening in New York, and also the fact that they wanted to bring Major League Baseball and a nice stadium to the Mets. The Mets getting the stadium at Shea Stadium in Queens is a long, tireless tale, and it involves the Brooklyn Dodgers. How? Well, the Brooklyn Dodgers were looking for a new stadium because Ebbets Field was being dilapidated, if you will. And the New York City Commissioner Robert Moses, who had more power in New York than anyone except for the mayor, said that he would build the Dodgers a stadium in Queens, but they said we're in Brooklyn, and Queens is a different borough of New York City. Fortunately, Robert Moses had a little bit of an ego trip, but so did Walter O'Malley. So everyone went back and forth, and the Dodgers were going to move to LA because the LA City Council swooped in the fighting and took the Dodgers away from Brooklyn. So Brooklyn lost out heavily on a lot of things. So the stadium site in Queens was practically where Shea Stadium was. It was built to entice Major League Baseball to bring a Major League team back to New York, which they, well, after Brooklyn left. But they did. Mostly because the Continental League was going to steal some talent and steal some people. So they beckoned and let the Mets play. They put a National League team in New York City. So the Mets were born. But the Mets would be upset to know that Shea Stadium wouldn't be built in time for the first season in 1962. So the Mets, for the final two seasons, would play out of dilapidated Polo Grounds. So anyhow, they couldn't play at Ebbets Field, where the former Dodger Stadium was, because that was hit with a wrecking ball, and Polo Grounds somehow was not. So anyhow, for the first few years, the Mets played there, and then they would move in Shea Stadium in 1964. They would see a lot of losing at Shea Stadium. But in 1969, the Mets somehow came out of freaking nowhere to win the World Series. So they did it. Anyhow, the Mets were a pretty decent team for that. Mark Shea Stadium held a lot of stadiums. It held the Beatles in New York, which had a lot of people. It also held football with the Jets playing at Shea Stadium until they got enticed to play at Giant Stadium in the 1980s. And it even hosted the Yankees for a few years when the Yankees had to renovate Yankee Stadium. Not the one they're in now. But anyway, the Yankees knew what to do. But yeah, you had the Yankees, Mets, Jets, and even the Giants played at Shea Stadium for a little bit. So you had four Major League teams playing in one stadium, which was messy, to say the least. So anyhow, Shea Stadium would be hosting great matches. And in 69 and 73, when the Mets won the NL pennant, and it was the World Series in 69, the fans went crazy and stormed the field. You don't see that every day. But yeah, Shea Stadium also hosted some super wrestling cards, including Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan, when Hulk was a heel in 1980. And people forget that Hulk faced the Giant in 1980 as a heel, and Andre the Giant was a babyface. But anyway, yeah, they would have the big boxing match between, well, they would have a boxer versus wrestlers. Andre the Giant would face Chuck Webner in a match. And Andre the Giant easily threw out Webner out of the boxing ring. So regardless of that, Shea Stadium also had some boxing. They had other things too, but it was a home for the Mets. And it was amazing that Shea Stadium rocked when the Mets won the 1986 World Series after supposedly being taken out by Boston. And then all of a sudden, Shea Stadium was a decent place to be and all that. But it was getting old, it was getting creaky and all that, and everyone basically left. So the Mets decided to build Citi Field across the way from Shea Stadium. Like, it would practically be seen. Once the Mets were playing games at Shea Stadium, you could see Citi Field being built and all that. So that's what I did. And the Mets would lose their final game of the season 4-2 to the Marlins, thus ensuring them being eliminated from the playoffs. So the Marlins with their 4-2 win was huge and all of that. The game actually was tied 0-0 headed to the 6th, when John Baker hit an RBI single for the Marlins, and then Josh Willingham had a bases-loaded walk. Carlos Beltran hit a 2-run home run to score the tying run. Unfortunately, in the 8th inning, off of Scott Schoenweiss, Wes Helms hit a home run, and then Luis Ayala came in to pitch and gave up a home run to Dan Uggla. That was at 4-2 as Ryan Church's fly ball went deep to center and caught by the center fielder. That was it, the end of the day. And the Mets would be moving to Citi Field, where they would have had some decent playoff appearances and some decent playoff games at Citi Field. But Shea Stadium just wasn't the same. Shea Stadium had the big party, and it was a decent stadium. So what else can you do? Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.